if you're not as consistent with running as you'd like to be, this video is for you. If you start for a couple months and then fall off the train for half a year, or you start with 6 days a week and then you stop running after a month, this video is going to address a lot of the reasons why that happens. And there's three main things we have to consider when we're trying to be consistent with running. And so let's just get right into it. Hopefully some of these are applicable to you, so then you can now get back to running and be a little bit more consistent. So the first thing we have to do out of the three I'm going to talk about is we have to eat enough. If you've gone from not running to running, you're burning way more calories than you've ever have. Now, if you're someone trying to use running for weight loss, sorry, this one isn't really for you because you have to be in a caloric deficit. But if you're just trying to be healthy, you want to run your first marathon, someone bets you that you can do 100 miles, bet you that you can't do an ultra or whatever the reason is, you have to eat enough. You have to eat more than you probably think you should. And ultimately, it's not that we're necessarily fueling for today's run. Like, that's part of it. But let's say you're trying to run 4 days a week. You run on Monday, so you ate a lot Sunday to make sure you have enough in your system for Monday's run. But what about your run on Wednesday or even later in the week on Thursday? What we're doing is we're not only trying to fuel for now, but we're fueling for later. And one of the big reasons why people stop running is they're too burnt out. They get too fatigued. They run 3 miles in the morning and it wipes them for the day. And there may be some other factors to this, but a common one is people aren't eating enough. So even if you don't need something for 3 miles, I think it's worth taking a gel or eating a banana or one extra protein shake, whatever you decide works for you. I think it's worth it, because if you want to stay consistent, you're going to have to avoid this burnout, this extreme fatigue that takes away from the quality of your day with work or family or whatever it is. And I've definitely done this. So don't feel bad for eating more, because I burn roughly, if my watch is accurate, 100 to 120 calories per mile. And so if you go from not running at all to running 10 miles a week, that's an additional 1,000 calories you're burning. And if you don't feel that, you're obviously potentially going to burn out or hit a wall, and then you're not going to be consistent. So first thing you got to do is you got to eat enough. You got to be okay with eating more. It's not a bad thing. Food is not a bad thing. It's just a tool that we have to use appropriately. Second thing we got to do is we got to stay healthy. And there's a lot of factors to this, but the biggest reason I think why people get off the consistency is they get injured. They get runner's knee, they get shin splints, they have back pain. Now, there's one thing I'm going to talk about that I think, well, two things really that help with this, but I'm not talking about stress fractures, and I'm not talking about tears or rips in your muscle or ligaments or tendons or whatever. What I'm talking about is those common running injuries that people take time off from, they come back and get it again. Or it's something that, is just an annoyance, and so you have to reduce your volume, or you stop being consistent and you take time off. I've heard this plenty. Running isn't for me. My body can't handle running. I pretty much disagree with most cases when people say that. The problem is you're either not flexible or mobile enough, or not strong enough to maintain the volume and load, or both. And so in order to stay healthy for the second point, what we have to do is we have to stretch and we have to address weak points. And so this is an ever-evolving thing. But for me, one of the first injuries I would get when it came to running was shin splints. And one of the things I started doing was I started wearing minimalist or barefoot shoes. And I felt like that made my feet and lower body stronger, because I was actually using the muscles in my feet, opposed to these over-cushioned, like high foam, like padding that, just like if I wore a cast for 20 years, my arm would atrophy. I believe it's very similar with shoes. And so that helped me with shin splints, but that's addressing the point of strength. Mobility is a big part of this too. A very common running injury is runner's knee. Some pain in your knee you only get when you run. Well, I was able to fix that for myself by 1, doing tibialis curls, and 2, stretching my quad. And it only makes sense. If my quad with an IT band was incredibly tight, of course it's pulling on my knee when I'm pushing and struggling through a run, and that's going to hurt. And so the tibialis curls supported a lot of muscles that were around my knee and on my lower leg, but also the stretching for the quad made things not as tight. And think about it, if you're at a baseline of tightness and then you start working out or running, your muscles are contracting more than just that baseline tightness. So no wonder it hurts more when you run, and then when you stop, you're fine, or maybe it hurts for an hour and then you're good. And so you have to be mobile or flexible enough. Similar thing with back pain. If you get back pain from running, you might have a slip disc, you might have something, more serious. but a big part of that is your hips and hamstrings being too tight. Or maybe your back's a little weak and you have to start deadlifting lights and you have to start getting in the gym. And so if you want to be consistent with running, we have to stay healthy, we have to avoid injury, and I fundamentally believe that one of the big, or two of the big reasons why people get injured, not like tears and fractures, but like these things that can be fixed naturally. Two of the two things are a lack of mobility or lack of strength. So you need to be asking yourself when you get these pains or injuries, things like what might be too tight that's causing this pain, or what is too weak that can't support this load and volume. So that's my second point, is staying healthy. There's a lot of factors to that, but no one wants to really run through injuries, and I obviously don't recommend it. So that's my second point. The last thing we have to do is we have to start small. Especially if you're one of those people that start big, get burnt out, start with a lot, get overwhelmed. If you are like saying, I'm going to start running 5 days a week, 40 miles a week, and you've never ran, or you haven't been running recently, I think that's a little bodacious claim. Like, that's a little too big. I'm not saying you can't do it, but we're trying to address the people who start running and then stop running. If you can just flip the switch and change your lifestyle, I say go for it, man. Hell yeah, I'm about that. Most people can't. Most people I talk to with running is they get started and stop, and get started and stop, and do it every year or every couple of years. So be honest with yourself. If you're one of those people that start too big, start small. Keep it easy. Like, if you run 2 days a week for the next month, 3 miles each, 2 miles each, 1 mile each, that's more than what you have been doing. And so that's a win. And if you can do that for a month, maybe you make those runs longer the second month, or you add a third run in the week, right? And so not only is this going to help you avoid getting injured or doing too much, but two, you feel like you win, and you stack those wins over time, and all of a sudden you're running 40 miles a week, you're running 5 days a week, you're going to the gym and running at the same time. And so it's really important, if you can't flip the switch and just change your lifestyle like that, then you need to start with something that almost seems underwhelming, because then once you do that, one, your body's going to slowly adapt, you're avoiding injury, but two, you win, and it feels like progress to go from, I was running 6 miles a week 1 month, and then now I'm running 10 miles a week, or I was running 1 day a week and now I'm running 2 days a week. And so if you want to be consistent, start small, and that progress is going to stack and snowball, and eventually you'll feel good about it, avoid the injuries, and not have this yo-yo that you have when you're starting running, not being consistent, and trying and then falling off for a year. So those are my 3 main tips if you're trying to become more consistent with running. You might need help with all of those, or maybe it's just one of those. And if you need more help with running, that's what this channel is about. I'm trying to help people learn from my mistakes. I like sharing stories. I want to help you avoid injuries and set PRs. And so if you like that stuff, consider subscribing. If not, that's okay too. I hope you got something out of the video, and I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.